Hello, Dennis. How are you? Shh. Bluma. No screaming in here, okay? Sorry about that. Okay. Welcome, Dennis. Welcome, Jeff. Good to see you. Hello, Leanne. Hello, Lawrence.
Hi, Rabbi.
Hi, Rabbi. Hi, everybody else.
Hello, Kent.
Hello, Kent.
John. Okay. Everyone's coming around. So, we are in the middle of learning the laws of Yom Kippur, but why do I mention in the message Rosh Hashanah? Because, in fact, tonight is what is colloquially referred to as the Rosh Hashanah of Chassidus. The 19th of Kislev, the day that the Baal Tanya, the Alter Rebbe, was released from Tsarist prison in the year 1799, and he referred to. Sorry, it's going to go to a bit of a quieter space. He referred to this as the day that not only was he released from prison, but also all those for whom the teachings of Chassidus and the ways of Chassidus are precious. We are, of course, also celebrating this day. You may not know this, but the first Hamish minyan, the first minyan other than, of course, the garden shul was the first shul. That was the English shul. But the Hamish minyan of Yidden from Lita and Russia in Cape Town was started by Chabad Chassidim in 1897, the Chabad Hebrew congregation. And tonight is when we celebrate the Rosh Hashanah, that great day. And of course, our learning Rambam is inspired by the Rebbe starting the cycle 35 years ago. So, 37 years ago. So, of course, learning the laws of Yom Kippur on the Erev Rosh Hashanah of Chassidus has a special meaning. So, let's go straight into it. Someone on Yom Kippur, a person is liable for eating an amount of food that is fit for humans to eat and is equivalent to the size of a large ripe date. In other words, slightly less than the size of an egg. All foods that one eats are combined to produce this measure. Okay, now we're going to see in a second that there is a size element and a time element, a minimum amount of time. Now, to be clear, any amount of food eaten in any amount of time in Yom Kippur is absolutely forbidden. However, the extent of the transgression varies, and that's why if someone is sick, there are ways that they can eat a minimal amount of food or drink with at least minimizing the level of transgression. Similarly, one who drinks a cheekful of liquid fit to be drunk by humans is liable. But the size of a cheekful is not a standard measure, but rather dependent on the size of the cheek for every individual. What is it meant by a cheekful? Enough liquid for a person to swish to one side of his mouth and for his cheek to appear full. For an ordinary person, this measure is less than a revius. As he points out here in the commentaries, that's actually slightly less than the revius, which is about 2.5 ounces. All liquids on drinks are combined to produce this measure. Foods and liquids, however, are not combined in a single measure. So this food is separate and drink is separate. 2. One is liable for kares eating on Yom Kippur if one eats food that is fit for human consumption, regardless of whether it's permitted or forbidden. This includes pigul, neiser, tevel, the flesh of an animal that died without ritual slaughter, the flesh of an animal that's treifa, fat, or blood. Makes no difference. So whether you're going to Avron's or McDonald's, equally prohibited. Number 3, if a person eats or drinks less than the above mentioned measures, he is not liable for kares. Although the Torah forbids partaking of less than the measure for which punishment is given, one is not liable for kares unless one partakes of that measure. A person who eats or drinks less than the minimum measure is given makas mardis, stripes for rebellion. You may be familiar with that term, and that's the reference to the malchus that would be imposed by the Chachamim, by the Rabbanan, for someone who transgresses an Aveda de Rabbanan. 4, the following rules apply when a person eats a small amount, pauses, and eats again. If the time from when he begins eating until he concludes eating is less than the time that it takes to eat an amount of bread and relish, equal in size to 3 eggs, the food that he eats is included in the same measure. But if not, meaning, if you ate just the minimum amount of food which is liable, but you ate it in time that it would take you longer to eat 3 eggs, it is not included in the same measure. And for this reason, when a person must eat Yom Kippur, that's really points out what I said earlier. Similar rules apply when a person drinks, pauses, and drinks again. If the time when he begins drinking until he concludes drinking is less than the time that it takes to drink or to vias, the liquid that he drinks is included in the same measure. And again, if not, it's included in the same measure. If it's relevant to you practically, you can do the research or speak to your rabbi, and he'll give you in your terms how a person can eat or drink on Yom Kippur in a way that minimizes the extent of transgression. Hey, when a person eats foods that are not fit for human consumption at all, so the issue is not that they're forbidden, but it's bitter herbs, foul-tasting syrups, liquids that are not fish to be drunk, example given, fish brine, pickled brine, undiluted vinegar, which are bad for your health. He is not liable for kares, even if he drinks a substantial amount. He should, however, be given stripes for rebellion. Again, that's your code word that is, by decree of the sages, nevertheless forbidden. Vav, shasa chaymetz mazu b'mayim. A person who drinks vinegar mixed with water is liable. One who chews dried pepper, dried ginger, or the like, however, is not liable. If ever one chews fresh ginger, one is liable. A person who eats leaves of the vine is not liable, but one who eats the buds of the vine is liable. Again, here, the Rambam is taking common foods that were eaten in those days, whether it was considered a common food or like the buds of the vine, or the leaves of the vine, which is not. What is meant by the buds of the vine? Buds that have sprouted in Russian to Yom Kippur. If they sprouted earlier, meaning then they have a fruit component to them, then if it was earlier, they're considered as wood, and the person is not liable. And the same applies in all analogous situations. Okay, what about when you dip your meat in mustard? Is the mustard included? When a person eats roast meat that has been salted, the salt's included in the mass of the meat. Similarly, brine in a vegetable is included because condiments that make food fit to be eaten or mixed together with the food are considered to be part of the food. So anything associated with the food. If a person was already sated because he had overeaten to the extent that he was jaded by the food and then ate more, he is not liable. It's comparable to a person who eats food that is not fit for consumption. Although this additional amount is fit to be eaten by a person who is hungry, it is not fit for a person who is sated to this extent. When a person who is dangerously ill asks to eat on Yom Kippur, he should be fed because of his request until he says it's enough, even though experts, physicians say it is unnecessary. Okay, so if a person is ill, says he wants food, you give it to him. Doesn't matter what the doctors say that he needs it or not. Conversely, when a sick person says that he doesn't need to eat food on Yom Kippur, and the doctor says it is necessary, he should be fed according to the doctor's instructions, provided this is an expert. When one physician says it's necessary for a sick person to eat, the other says it's unnecessary, the person should be fed. If several say that it's necessary, and others say it's unnecessary, then follow either the majority or those with the most expertise. This applies provided the sick person doesn't himself say that it's necessary. If ever he makes such a statement, he should be fed, even if it's contrary to the majority of the expert physicians. If the sick person, however, doesn't say he should eat, and the physicians were divided, they're all experts, equal numbers taking each side, again, he should be fed. So if there's any basic doubt, follow the ones who say to give him. Ubada test. A pregnant woman smells food and she's overcome by a desire for it. We should whisper in her ear that today is Yom Kippur. If this reminder is sufficient to calm her senses, it is desirable, meaning if you're able to calm her down, she should be fed until the desire ceases. Similarly, if a person if a person is overcome by ravenous hunger, he should be fed until he sees clearly. He should be fed immediately, even if it necessitates giving him non-kosher meat or meat from a loathsome species. We do not require that he wait until permitted food becomes available. Okay. Yud. Katan ben Tesha Shanim. From the time that a child is 9 or 10 years old, he should be trained to fast for several hours. What is implied? Ketzad. If he's used to eating 2 hours after daybreak, he should be fed in the third hour. If he's used to eating after 3 hours, he should be fed in the fourth. According to the child's stamina, we should add hours to his anguish. In other words, train the children to eat less later. When a child is 11 years old, whether male or female, it's a rabbinic ordinance that he complete his fast, that he be trained in the observance of the mitzvahs. But to be clear, we do not follow this lahalacha. In other words, until Barabas mitzvah, they are not obligated. There is a custom in the last year or the last 3 fasts, but that is only customs. A female who's 12 years old one day. Male who is 13 years old. In other words, if they come to Bar Bat mitzvah, and they show signs of physical maturity, in other words, 2 pubic hairs, they're considered to be adults with regards to the observance of all the mitzvahs and are obligated to complete their fast according to the Torah. If, however, they didn't manifest signs of physical maturity, they're considered to be minors and obligated to put the fast only by virtue of a rabbinic decree. A child who is less than 9 years old should not be afflicted at all on Yom Kippur, lest this lead to danger. In other words, from 9 to Bar Bat Mitzvah, they train, and onwards, they are fully obligated like an adult. Any questions? Pretty simple, clear halachot. So, friends.
Certainly food for thought, Rabbi.
Well said. I wish you all a Shana Tova. You should be inscribed and sealed for a year of learning Chassidus and living Chassidus for you and your families. Have a great Shabbat. By the time I see you next time, we'll already be in Hanukkah. So, Afredich in Hanukkah, and all the best.
Thanks, Rabbi.
Thanks, Rabbi.
Thank
Have a
you,
good day.
Rabbi. We'll see you later.